Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you as is usual. For this one we're going to continue on with the series of Scottish beer reviews that I've been doing for you. So this is video number 12 in the Scottish Beer Month series, and for this one we're going to return to Innis Gunn, who are based primarily in Edinburgh but brew a lot of their beer out of the Well Park Brewery in Glasgow. Probably one of the better known Scottish breweries, in fact, for those of you watching outside of Scotland, but this is one of their lesser known beers. So for this one we're going to have a taste of the Scottish Pale Ale, and I thought this would be quite a good one to save for you, considering I'm doing a Scottish Beer Month series of reviews, because it is obviously a Scottish style. So as is usual then with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery. If you don't want to stick with me for that, feel free to fast forward a few minutes into the video and you will get straight to the tasting. The brewery website is in the video description for you below, as is a link to my other Innis Gunn beer reviews, and there's quite a few of those now, so check those out if you are interested. So anyway, Innis Gunn are an independently owned specialist brewing company, as I said, primarily based in Edinburgh, but they do brew most of their beers at the Well Park Brewery in Glasgow. And these guys were founded back in 2003, originally as a joint venture between William Grant's Whisky Distillers and Dougal Sharp, but they became family owned by Dougal in 2008. But the beers are quite interesting because the beers were essentially discovered by accident by Dougal, and Dougal was first exposed to brewing by his father in 1987 at his brewery, and he later became the head brewer of the Caledonian Brewery in Edinburgh in 2002. Now, Dougal was contacted by Grant's Whisky Distillers, who wanted to season their whisky casks with a malty, full flavoured beer, and the custom-made recipe was put into these casks and removed 30 days later and replaced with whisky. And the whisky itself actually gained a very good reputation with this. But master brewer Dougal was then phoned by the whisky distiller who'd sampled the beer out of curiosity, and he found that casks actually created a really kind of very interesting infused taste, and you'll notice that if you try these beers. But upon tasting this beer, Dougal was highly impressed, and he immediately quit his job to work on refining the process by which he would produce these Innis Gunn beers, and he took about a year to do this, in fact. And Innis Gunn Oaked Age Original was launched in 2003 to critical acclaim, and in 2010 it's actually also become available on draft as well. And the Oaked Age Original is one of the core members of the range, which you'll obviously, if you go and check out the brewery website in the video description there, you will get an idea of some of the different core range beers that they have. I believe it's the Toasted Oak IPA, the Canadian Cherrywood, and also the Rum Cask one, I think, are the three main sort of core beers that they do now. But they do a number of different seasonals. You mean Irish Whiskey Cask, and there's a whole host of these Oraloo Cask and all of this. There's a whole host of beers that these guys are doing for these now. And just let's get on to the tasting of this beer now. That's a sort of brief history of the Innis Gunn Brewery for you there, but we'll get on to the tasting of this guy itself. So let me just fix the camera here and we'll bring up the bottle. I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this one. This is a 7% Scottish Pale Ale. It's apparently a limited release one from this brewery. As you can see, it's the typical Innis Gunn style of artwork on this. You can see the three barrels for Innis Gunn, their typical symbol. Nice kind of purple colour on this one, and the standard Innis Gunn bottle cap is on this too. It tells you a little bit on the back of this one. It says here, to make this beer we have carefully selected only 5 ingredients to import the most intense flavours. Pale Ale and Munich malt give a delicious body and maltiness, and to balance this, Super Styrian, East Kent Goldings and Styrian Goldings have been added to create a wonderful vibrant hop character that will leave your palate tingling. It is the perfect beer to savour on a long lazy summer night spent with good friends. And it says serve at 4 degrees to 6 degrees. Just a wee thing to point out there, you can see it's on the bottom it's signed by Dougal Sharp and also Andrew Goonley, who is I believe one of the head brewers there as well. And you can see it tells you on the bottom of all these beers how long exactly it's matured for. So this one is matured in the casks for 41 days. So always check that with your Innis Gunn beers. They all have different maturing ages. You can see there's a bit of nice glasswork on this one as well. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera there, but there's the 3 barrels in the glass here as well. So let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting there. Should be a really nice one for us to try actually. So we'll get it open. Nice smoky opening there. Not really much in the way of kind of carbonation coming out on top, but we'll get it out into the glass and see how we get on. Interested to try this one. I think this is the very first Scottish Pale Ale particular style that I've been reviewing for you on the channel. But Innis Gunn beers are all very, very good, so I'm really interested just to see how this turns out. So let me just bring up the light and let you have a little look at the colour of this beer. Obviously it's a very, kind of spilling it about there, you can see there's a solid half finger of a frothy white head there. That's going to go down to a very thin layer now though. Not much in the way of a visible carbonation, and it's a very kind of strong orangey copper amber colour, this one. You would see, if I put my fingers behind it, you can see it is transparent. I'm not sure how well you're seeing the colour of this one really, but you can see it's a nice kind of, if I put my face behind it actually, you can see it's a nice sort of orangey copper amber colour here. Very, very nice looking beer. You can smell the sort of typical Innis Gunn notes from this one without paying too much attention to it actually. So let's just give it a smell and see how we get on here. What's notable about this one, just on the first, the sort of first note of the aroma, if you like, it does have quite a bit of grassy and kind of strawy character, citric character to it, which isn't common in the Innis Gunn beers. That's probably what the unique point of this one is. But if you sugar it up, you get the typical sort of vanilla and oaky wood notes that you expect from Innis Gunn. Obviously with their beers all being sort of cask aged, you expect that. But a really nice kind of vanilla, oaky flavoured note on this, with some nice, there's definitely some nice caramel and bready malts in there as well. It's a very kind of attractive smelling beer actually, very nicely done. But it's typical of Innis Gunn, as I say. The only kind of real unique point in terms of Innis Gunn with this one is the sort of grassier hop, which obviously is what you would expect from a pale ale style. So let's give it a taste and see how we get on here. So this is the Scottish Pale Ale from Innis Gunn, a limited release one. Hopefully you can still find it. Cheers. It's very nice, that actually. It has the typical malt base that you would expect from Innis Gunn. So it's quite a sweet beer. You've got some nice, really sweet caramel flavours coming out in the beginning, and it has that really typical fused vanilla and kind of woody, oaky feel to it. Very woody, quite nutty feel to this one as well actually. It's a very nice blend of flavours in this one, and that's typical of Innis Gunn. The carbonation in this one is a little bit more active from what I remember compared to their other beers actually, and that helps bring out just that little bit of grassy character that's coming out around the edges of the tongue here in the finish of the beer. You have a bit of citrus kind of sitting in there just right on the front of the tongue, but the palate really is dominated by the nice kind of vanilla, oaky, caramelly, bready, sort of the big fused malt base that these beers have. But it is definitely, I think this one is quite a bit more carbonated than the other ones. In the way though, the carbonation is quite smooth. It's not that prickly, it's just a very smooth kind of steady attack carbonation, if that makes sense. But yeah, on the middle of the tongue you're getting that nice caramel, sort of fused with the oaky and vanilla wood there, and around the edge of the tongue you really are getting this sort of fresher, grassy hop character coming out a little bit. There maybe is a touch of earthy character in here too, and that's what you usually expect of English hops actually, and with the Styrian Goldings being from the southeast of England, I believe Kent they're grown in actually, you expect that, and you can taste a little bit of that in the beer. Even though it's very, very sweet, there is a kind of fairly distinct earthy character in it as well, I think. But yeah, it's got all the typical elements of an Innis Gunn, but it has a little bit of a different thing with these English hops that are in it. It's got a nice grassy feel, slightly citric sweetness right on the front of the tongue, but there is, if you just feel the aftertaste coming out a little bit, right on the back of the tongue in the middle, you can just get this little bit of earthy character that actually adds a nice little dimension to the beer. It's a very interesting one, this, and to me it doesn't strike me as a particularly Scottish beer, this one. That's the unusual thing. It's described as a Scottish pale ale, but in terms of Scottish beers, our beers are always a bit heavier with a kind of higher alcohol content, and this one really doesn't strike me as that at all. It's more just like a kind of pale ale version of of the Innis Gunn. It's not like an IPA at all. It's not quite kind of like strong enough, I think, in hop terms to be that. It's almost like a kind of smooth cask blonde ale version of it, actually, just with a little bit of grassy character.
It's kind of like that. A Scottish pale ale isn't, I don't know if that's the kind of right way to describe this one in honesty, but in fairness it does have the kind of grassy and earthy character from the kind of typical hops you would find in an English pale ale style. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's another interesting one, another interesting twist that Innis Gunn have put on their beers. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say it's quite typical of them. It's mid-bodied, kind of soft carbonation. As I said, it kind of has a kind of single attack on it. It's not very prickly at all, and it does have a kind of slightly oily mouthfeel to it as well. But I mean, overall, in terms of Innis Gunn of this beer, in honesty, I'd be tempted to say this isn't one of their better ones that they've done. I do think the original, the blonde, and the rum cask ones are probably the best ones I've had so far. And there are some other very, very good ones out there, but the Scottish Pale Ale, I think, is the twist on it just isn't kind of that prominent enough to kind of push it up into being one of their better beers. I think it is a very nice one to drink and to try, but I can see why this is more of a limited release rather than a kind of regular beer, if that makes sense. So what I would recommend is that if you give it a try, you might like it yourself. As I always say, my beer is quite subjective, so try it for yourself and see what you think. I hope my review's gone kind of some way into kind of helping you get an idea of what this beer's like. So I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless, and please, as always, comment in the video section below and let me know your own thoughts on this beer. This is quite a nice one, as I say. It's quite a novelty one from Innis Gunn, a slightly interesting little hop twist that it has compared to their usual beer, so give it a try. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. There will be more Innis Gunn beer reviews to come in the near future, I'm sure. They will be releasing more beer, and I will review that for you over the next little while. I hope you're enjoying the series of Scottish beer reviews, and I will catch you soon with more. Cheers.